Hello and welcome to a new episode, a new series. This is going to be called Hollywood Looks. What we're going to be doing in this series is we're just going to be going over some generic genre looks. So for example, this one's going to be horror. We might have one for rom-com, action, and maybe some specific movies. So if you guys comment below, we can decide which episode will be next if you have a certain movie that you like. For example, we have Insidious 2 here, which is going to be our main reference image to go by. And then we have Hush, which is a pretty good movie I just found recently, and it has a pretty similar image. And then we have It Follows, which is a little more, it's got a little more separation, whereas the other ones are a little more overcast with just blues in the shadows and sort of blending the skin tones in, whereas this one sticks out a little more with that teal orange split. But like I said, we're going to be going mostly with this image. And we have here to work with my friend's short film, Vice, from the road competition that he worked on. And they did a really good job, and I had a lot of fun coloring it. So the first thing we want to do is just sort of get our image balanced so that we can work with adding the color a little better. So I'm just going to bring down my offset. And as you can see, my shadows are a little bit off. So I'm just going to get this to match as best I can. Just going to drop some of the blues in the mids, some of the greens, and just get a little more balanced and neutral. So now we have just sort of a good starting image. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to add a new node. I'm going to name the first node, I'm going to do change label. I'm going to select contrast. And the second node will be color. And now we can sort of have separation between the two. I'm going to go back to my contrast node. I'm going to just get these two to match now. So you can sort of see this is extremely dark. So I'm just going to bring everything real down a lot. I'm not going to go exactly by the scope, so I'm going to do a little bit more by eye because it is lit differently. So you can see there's some highlights in this window, and this window isn't really lit up. So we're just going to go by the subjects, but we don't want to go too crazy. Make sure we're not crushing anything. And that exposure is pretty close. So now let's go back to our color. And like I said, there's a few ways to do this. The first way to do it, in my opinion, is to take, as you can sort of see here, let's just take a look just at the reference image. And let's bring up these scopes. We've got pretty much red sitting at 0, green sitting at a little higher than 0, and blue a little tiny bit higher than the green. So we're just sort of going to go for that. Bring our scopes back down there. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to just try it with curves first. And I'm just going to take this bottom point of the blue and get it to match there. And get the bottom point of our green, sort of get that to match. And we're going to have to pull back and forth between green and blue because they're going to be fighting each other. And that right there is a pretty good starting point. My really dark regions, as you can see here, they're still blue in these shadows, but they drop off a little harder, the shadows. So what we can do next is we can take our Y curve, we can just sort of drop that down like that. So we don't want to crush the image though, but that's doing it pretty well. So that's a pretty good starting point. The next step is really simple. To really sell the effect is simply drop down your saturation by about 10 to 20 points, or 10 to 15 points. I'm going to bring it down to 39, and that's already looking pretty good. We don't have these bright white highlights here in our image. We have a little bit here, but it's not illuminated. So I'm looking at like this girl's shirt and this one here to sort of match it to his a little better. And maybe what I want to do is I might just want to turn down the intensity of my green. So I'm just going to go back there and do that. Just get it matched as best I can. Now I'm going to disable that node just to show you what else we can do. I'm going to add a parallel node. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into log mode, go to our shadows, and just sort of add some blue-green here. And this also has a really nice effect. You can sort of mess with the controls, fine-tune them a little more. Look here, and once again, just drop down the saturation. Go back to your primary wheels, drop it down by about 10, and probably, again, you probably just gotta add a little S-curve. And the effect, as you can see, is very similar. It's just going to be slightly different. The other way, of course, is you can just sort of use, if I go back to the other curves, if you don't want to raise the shadows per se, and maybe you want to keep your shadows neutral, what I can do is I can bring back my blue and my green, and you can sort of bump them like this. And this way, you're not completely affecting your shadows. So if we look at our scopes, all the zeros are still being touched here. So I actually kind of like this one because it's keeping the neutral shadows just a little bit more. And maybe I just want to increase the contrast a little more. Turn the pivot. So there's a lot of ways to approach it. That's a pretty good looking image. And then, of course, from there, if you want, you can just add another node or use this one. And if you want it to be a little brighter, you can just increase your gain. But I liked it before. I like it really dark. Some people don't like it because they can't see everything, but honestly, to me, it's a horror movie. And then, of course, if you don't like how intense the color is, you can always just go to your key and decrease the output and sort of control exactly how much of it you have. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Really simple, really easy to get. We could take it a step further and sort of key out the window if we wanted to try and match it a little more and try and blow out the window or maybe HSL qualify it or something like that. But in the meantime, if you guys can think of any looks that you want to see and learn how to make, comment below. You can also email me at crushvisuals@gmail.com and just title it Hollywood Look Suggestion or something like that. You can also go to my website and contact me and find other great tutorials there besides on YouTube. If you have a Steemit account, that's great too because I'm on there. If you haven't heard of Steemit, check it out. It's free to make an account for, and it's really fun. Lots of great info there, and it's still in beta, so if you can get in now, it's a really great time. So, I'm just messing around while I'm talking, making this window a little crazy. It's not really working, but again, if I just turn that down, that has an interesting look to it, right? It's kind of cool. So that's just one way that you could sort of match the look a little more. So, yep, like I said, feel free to contact me. Make sure to comment below if you want a special look, and I'll see you guys around.